going on, guys? Welcome, 66 cents. Working out for you right here. Oh no, it's 6 o'clock. That means it's time for coffee and some conspiracy. Let's get to it.
Assassination, the Johnson White House released something called the Warren Commission report. And the report concluded that while their motives remained unclear, both Lee Oswald and Jack Ruby had acted alone. No one helped them. There was no conspiracy of any kind. Case closed. Time to move on. And many Americans did move on. At the time, they had no idea how shoddy and corrupt the Warren Commission was. It would be nearly 50 years before the CIA admitted under duress that in fact it had withheld information from investigators about its relationship with Lee Harvey Oswald. But even then, at the time, before that was known, the government's explanation didn't seem entirely plausible, and some people started asking obvious questions about it. It was at that point, as Americans started to doubt the official story, that the term conspiracy theory entered our lexicon. As Professor Lance DeHaven Smith points out in his book on the subject, the term conspiracy theory did not exist as a phrase in everyday American conversation before 1964. In 1964, the year the Warren Commission issued its report, the New York Times published 5 stories in which conspiracy theory appeared. Now today, of course, the term conspiracy theory appears in pretty much every New York Times story about American politics. It's wielded, now as then, as a weapon against anyone who asks questions the government doesn't feel like answering. But despite 60 years of name-calling, those questions have not disappeared. In fact, they have multiplied with time. And here's one of them. In April of 1964, a psychiatrist called Louis Joylan West visited Jack Ruby in his isolation cell in a Dallas jail. According to West's written assessment, he found that Jack Ruby was, quote, technically insane and in need of immediate psychiatric hospitalization. Those are conclusions that, puzzlingly, no one who had spoken to Jack Ruby previously had reached. Ruby had seemed perfectly sane to the people who knew him. Louis Joylan West pronounced him crazy. But what West did not say was that he was working for the CIA at the time. Louis Joylan West was a contract psychiatrist for the spy agency. He was also an expert on mind control and a prominent player in the now infamous MK-Ultra program, in which the CIA gave powerful psychiatric drugs to Americans without their knowledge. So of all the psychiatrists in the world, what in the world was this guy doing in Jack Ruby's prison cell? The media did not seem interested in finding out. In fact, the New York Times, in an extensive 1999 obituary of West, never mentioned the fact that he had worked for the CIA, much less his time in Jack Ruby's cell, which seems relevant. So you can see why non-crazy people would wonder about what really happened, and of course many have wondered. In 1976, long forgotten, the House of Representatives impaneled a special committee to reinvestigate the JFK assassination. Their bipartisan conclusion? Jack Kennedy was almost certainly murdered as the result of a conspiracy. But the question is, a conspiracy by whom? Well, the obvious suspect would be the CIA. Why else would the agency withhold critical evidence from investigators? Is there a benign explanation for that, for maintaining this level of secrecy for this many years? Not that we're aware of. And it is illegal. In 1992, Congress passed the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act. And that act mandated full disclosure of all documents by 2017, 54 years after JFK was killed. The last administration promised to comply fully with that law, but under intense pressure from CIA Director Mike Pompeo, withheld in the end thousands of pages of CIA documents. Today, this afternoon, the Biden administration did exactly the same thing. That would be thousands of pages of documents after nearly 60 years, after the death of every single person involved. But we still can't see them. Clearly, it's not to protect any person, they're all dead. It's to protect an institution. But why? Well, today we decided to find out. We spoke to someone who had access to these still hidden CIA documents, a person who was deeply familiar with what they contain. We asked this person directly, did the CIA have a hand in the murder of John F. Kennedy, an American president? And here's the reply we received verbatim. Quote, the answer is yes. I believe they were involved. It's a whole different country from what we thought it was. It's all fake. It's hard to imagine a more jarring response than that. Again, this is not a, quote, conspiracy theorist that we spoke to. Not even close. This is someone with direct knowledge of the information that once again is being withheld from the American public. And the answer we received was unequivocal. Yes, the CIA was involved in the assassination of the president. Now, some people will not be surprised to hear that. They suspected it all along. But no matter how you feel about or what you thought about the Kennedy assassination, pause to consider what this means. It means that within the US government, there are forces wholly beyond democratic control. These forces are more powerful than the elected officials that supposedly oversee them. These forces can affect election outcomes. They can even hide their complicity in the murder of an American president. In other words, they can do pretty much anything they want. They constitute a government within a government, mocking by their very existence the idea of democracy. As cynical as we have become after 30 years of watching government officials ignore the voters who employ them, we were shocked to learn this. It's not acceptable. Americans have trusted their government.
It is definitely not acceptable. I think we need to move forward. We need all the answers to everything, people. But the answers start with you. You got to find out. You got to dig deep. You got to chat GPT. You got to talk to the book. Talk to the man. Talk to the prayer. And get busy right here at 6 Cents.
That's with every passing year since the killing of John F. Kennedy. Maybe this is why.
What's the matter?
After the JFK.
What's the matter?
First off, we know the video is real. It was broadcast live by a news chopper, and you can see from the independent motion of the object that it's not just a smudge on the lens. So could it have been an object from outer space entering the Earth's atmosphere? We asked the video expert Mark D'Antonio, a trained astronomer.
Sometimes meteors will come in, and sometimes they hit the atmosphere at such a low angle that they can't crash, and they just go skipping off the Earth. And as they do that, they start to burn up.
But the California UFO wasn't burning up. And science writer Mick West, who's lived through plenty of wildfires, says it couldn't be a plane.
It didn't seem to have any of the features of a plane. It had no visible wings, and it seemed to be moving either too slow or to be too big to be a plane.
Set on solving this puzzle, West starts by determining precisely where the news chopper was.
I looked at all the helicopters in the Flight Radar 24 tracking service and tried to figure out where they all were at that time. Then I went into Google Earth and I positioned the camera where these helicopters were at around that time.
Using some satellite images of the fire, West is able to line up that image with the chopper's exact camera angle.
So I could tell that the chopper's over here, we're looking over here.
Then, the eureka moment.
You can see here we're looking down, so it's all ocean.
That's right. The sky is really the Pacific Ocean. And the cigar-shaped UFO?
What if it was a boat that's actually out on the ocean?
West checks the local shipping lanes, and sure enough,
15 miles off the coast is the route that all the container ships take when they're going north and south off the coast of California. So what we were looking...
You know, really don't buy all this alien bull crap. And then they try to blame it on, like they always have, in my opinion. They say the aliens are coming in November, right? They say that when they get here, they'll be Afro aliens. And then ashore, everybody who's Afro is going to stand up and say, they're here for us, but don't forget about the syphilis people. Don't forget about what the government's done to you. And don't forget that it's the same people talking about that the aliens are going to be, colored aliens when they get here. And I'm sure they'll, for entertainment purposes only, I'm sure that they'll boom us with their boomsticks and their boom planes and their boom saucers. And then they'll blame it, as always, on the colored people, because that's what we do as a government. Can't make a TV or a VCR worth a damn, but we can boom stuff, especially if you've got a lot of brown people. I'll put a little George Carlin here for you guys, let you know exactly how I believe as well. Back to the clip.
New job in the world. Brown people. Iraq, Panama, Grenada, Libya. You got some brown people in your country. Tell them to watch the out, or we'll them. Well, when's the last white people you can remember? Can you remember the last white? Can you remember any white people we've ever? The Germans, those are the only ones, and that's only because they were trying to cut in on our action. They wanted to dominate the world. Bull. That's our job. Israeli murderers are called commandos. Arab commandos are called terrorists. Contra killers are called freedom fighters. Well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight? They never mention that part of it to us, do they? Never mention that part. Israeli murderers are called commandos. Arab commandos are called terrorists. Contra killers are called freedom fighters. Well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight? They never mention that part of it to us, do they? Never mention that part. Israeli murder.
It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That's against their interest. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. The owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
From the Declaration of Independence to the
Forget it either.
Constitution of the Star-Spangled Banner.
I think George Carlin runs it pretty straight here. Don't you ever forget that you are owned in this country, bought and paid for. Those letters on your birth certificate, those letters, they're capital letters because you're capital. Don't you forget it. Moving along.
It's still nothing more than one big steaming pile of red, white, and blue all-American bullshit. Because think of how we started. Think of that. This country was founded by a group of slave owners who told us all men are created equal. Oh yeah, all men, except for Indians and niggers and women, right? Always like to use that authentic American language. This was a small group of unelected white male land-holding slave owners who also suggested their class be the only one allowed to vote. Now that is what's known as being stunningly and embarrassingly full of shit. And I think Americans really show their ignorance when they say they want their politicians to be honest. What are these fucking cretins talking about? If honesty were suddenly introduced into American life, the whole system would collapse. No one would know what to do. Honesty would fuck this country up. From the Declaration of Independence.
And don't you forget it. That's the truth coming from George Carlin. Me and my dad seen George Carlin twice. Twice. I got suspended from school for wearing a shirt that says, Simon Says, go fuck yourself. I was in 9th grade. 2 years later, my 11th grade, I also got suspended for wearing the shirt that says, when the going gets tough, the tough go get fucked. Say, hey, people.
Hi, people.
Tell everybody next clip.
Next clip.
Love it.
The whole system works. So we, economic hitmen, are the first line of defense. We go in, we try to corrupt governments and get them to accept these huge loans, which we then use as leverage, basically own them. If we fail, as I failed in Panama with Omar Torrijos and in Ecuador with Jaime Roldos, men who refused to be corrupted, then the second line of defense is we send in the jackals. And the jackals either overthrow governments or they assassinate. And once that happens and a new government comes in, boy, it's going to toe the line because the new president knows what will happen if he doesn't. In the case of Iraq, both of those things failed. Economic hitmen were not able to get through to Saddam Hussein. We tried very hard. We tried to get him to accept a deal very similar to what the House of Saud had accepted in Saudi Arabia, but he wouldn't accept it. And so the jackals went in to take him out. They couldn't do it. His security was very good. After all, he had one time worked for the CIA. He'd been hired to assassinate a former president of Iraq and failed, but he knew the system. So in 91, we send in the troops and we take out the Iraqi military. So we assume at that point that Saddam Hussein is going to come around. We could have taken him out, of course, at that time, but we didn't want to. He's the kind of strong man we like. He controls his people. We thought he could control the Kurds and keep the Iranians in their border and keep pumping oil for us. And that once we took out his military, now he's going to come around. So the economic hitmen go back in the 90s without success. If they'd had success, he'd still be running the country. we'd be selling him all the fighter jets he wants and everything else he wants.
Damn it.
But they couldn't. They didn't have success. The Jackals couldn't take him out again, so we sent the military in once again, and this time we did the complete job and took him out, and in the process created for ourselves some very, very lucrative construction deals. Had to reconstruct a country that we'd essentially destroyed, which is a pretty good deal if you own construction companies, big ones. So, Iraq shows the 3 stages. The economic hitman.
Pay close attention to this, you guys. Halliburton's always behind all the natural disasters, all the fuel line breakage, all the oil spills, Exxon Valdez. Halliburton got real big in the 80s with Exxon Valdez. You'll need to look into it. More information on Halliburton right here. Here we go.
Failed there. The Jackals failed there. And as a final measure, the military goes in. And in that way, we've really created an empire, but we've done it very, very subtly. It's clandestine. And then you have to ask yourself, well, if it's an empire, then who's the emperor? Obviously, our presidents of the United States are not emperors. An emperor is someone who's not elected, doesn't serve a limited term, and doesn't report to anyone, essentially. So you can't classify our presidents that way. But we do have what I consider to be the equivalent of the emperor, and it's what I call the corporatocracy. The corporatocracy is this group of individuals who run our biggest corporations, and they really act as the emperor of this empire. They control our media, either through direct ownership or advertising. They control most of our politicians because they finance their campaigns, either through their corporations or through personal contributions that come out of the corporations. They're not elected, and they don't serve a limited term. They don't report to anybody. And at the very top of the corporatocracy, you really can't tell whether a person's working for a private corporation or the government because they're always moving back and forth. So, you've got a guy who one moment is the president of a big construction company like Halliburton, and the next moment he's vice president of the United States, or the president who is in the oil business. And this is true whether you've got Democrats or Republicans in the office. You have to moving back and forth through the revolving door. And in a way, our government is invisible a lot of the time, and its policies are carried out by our corporations on one level or another. And then again, the policies of the government are basically forged by the corporatocracy and then presented to the government. They become government policy. So it's an incredibly cozy relationship. This isn't a conspiracy theory type of thing. These people don't have to get together and plot to do things. They all basically work under one primary assumption, and that is that they must maximize profits regardless of the social and environmental costs.
And I think everybody knows that that's the truth. Everybody knows that's the truth.
Allegedly getting rid of evidence and setting up for a new smart city.
Flying right over that thing.
Tunnels under Hollywood.
Okay.
Do you believe in them? Do you think they exist?
They're real.
Really? I knew I would
Now I'm just pissed I'm not invited.
There's so many different tunnels. Because
Do you think celebrities really use them? Do you think people really use them?
Yes.
You think it's the 1%? Like, you think it's just like
It's definitely the 1%. We built our city on top of a city that kind of already existed, so there's just a lot under there. And the problem is I've been invited to these scenarios. I've felt like the sickest, most led feeling
you used
ever.
to work at a secret Starbucks, is that right? Yeah. Have you ever wondered while driving in Los Angeles, how come you've never seen like Will Smith stuck in traffic on the 405? Yeah, why is that? That's because there's a series of intricate tunnels underneath Los Angeles known as the actor bond. I'm not kidding. Like, they get access points to move through the city without ever having to be in traffic. Underneath there in
Los
those
Angeles Times, from their databases, January 29th, 1934, Lizard People's Catacomb City Hunted. It basically says this engineer did find tunnels underneath the ground of LA. It looks like they have it all mapped out. This is at Fort Moore Hill. This place has been under the governance of multiple different groups of people, beginning with the Mormons. A group of U.S. military worked with the Mormons.
I feel like I've been seeing so much about all the tunnels under LA too. It's like, I mean, I was telling you, I toured this house the other day that had a tunnel under it to all these places in Hollywood, and they said Marilyn Monroe would like use it. I've been trying to find out the tunnel lore. Like I want to.
Are you into it? Are you like, I wanted to get this house now because of it?
No, I do not want that house.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Like, what's the tunnels go to?
I need.
What is that on the side?
This is steel reinforced concrete.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can go faster. They were in a tunnel under LA.
So if LA couldn't get any creepier with all the problems with crime and homeless, I ran into this billboard on this lot. So this is a vacant lot for construction, and it says, "Live life deeper, 144 stories underground. You may never go outside again." It's so creepy. I'm wanting to know if this is real with this construction site right here. West Hollywood, Beverly Hills adjacent, a controlled access community, 24/7 security, residents only amenities, a new standard of sustainable living, but it's all underground. Live life deeper. The world's first and only completely subterranean residences. Terrifying. I feel like it's a horror movie. It's so creepy.
Allegedly getting rid of evidence.
No, that's right.
It's the first video of the mysterious jetpack flyer sighted in the skies over Los Angeles.
We just passed a guy in a jetpack.
The video is speaking out for the first time.
We just thought maybe it was an airplane, but as we got closer, we realized it was too small. So we thought maybe it was a drone or balloons or something like that. But the closer we got to it, it looked more and more like a jetpack. We really couldn't believe it. I kept saying, no way can that be the jetpack man?
This was the latest sighting of a jetpack over the LA flight zone. So far, there have been 2 previous incidents, and law enforcement is taking this very seriously as a potential danger to both. On August 29. Then again, on October 14th, it was spotted by a China Airlines pilot.
Like with legs, it looked like it had something on the back, like a backpack.
The FAA and FBI are investigating a startling report of what they're calling an airspace intruder, a man wearing a jetpack. The FAA says 2 airline crews reported the close encounter Sunday night approaching Los Angeles International Airport.
Well, good morning. Investigators are skeptical it was, in fact, a jetpack, but talk about a high-flying mystery in the skies over Los Angeles. Did 2 pilots really see a man with a jetpack at 3,000 feet?
Certainly.
Then,
you know, it's amazing what you see in these clips.
jetpacks like this one from LA-based Jetpack Aviation are not common. Only a handful of companies in the world make them.
It's the first video of the mysterious jetpack flyer sighted in the skies over Los Angeles.
323.
As it remains a mystery if 2 pilots saw.
The mysterious jetpack man spotted near LAX and across parts of LA may not have been a man at all. New images from recent incidents released by
As it remains a mystery if 2 pilots saw.
The mysterious jetpack man spotted near LAX and across parts of LA may not have been a man at all. New images from recent incidents released by LAPD appears to show an inflatable balloon resembling Jack Skellington from the... Police released photos and video from a sighting over the Hollywood Hills and Century City. The FBI says its agents worked closely with the FAA to investigate reports of the jetpack man in the LA area. They believe People likely saw balloons, not a real man.
2 American journals.
More than 400 American journalists had secretly carried out assignments for the CIA for 25 years. And not small-town papers. These were reporters at the New York Times, CBS, Time Magazine, Newsweek, the AP, Reuters, Washington Post, the biggest names in American media. Some journalists were full CIA employees using journalism as cover, and the publishers knew. Arthur Hayes Salzberg at the New York Times, William Paley at CBS, they cooperated directly with the CIA. When the agency needed a story planted, they'd make a call. The story would run. When they needed a story killed, another call. The story would go away.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces. But we are concerned about trouble that one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The New York Times gave CIA employees press credentials. They posed as reporters while conducting intelligence operations. Journalists spied on foreign leaders. They carried money to CIA assets. They provided their hotel rooms for secret meetings. When the CIA overthrew governments in Iran and Guatemala, the American press explained why it was necessary. When the agency needed support for the Vietnam War, headlines appeared. The American people thought they were reading news. They were reading CIA propaganda.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
News has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, you guys, that is the show. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure and leave a like down below. Please leave a comment. I like talking with you guys. I want to do a live. Right now, I've only got about 3 or 4 people that are leaving comments, and I appreciate that. You are the crew, and I like to talk to people. So leave a comment down below. I'll be getting backwards and forwards with people. I'm going to do a live where I talk with you guys backwards and forwards, and we get the message out, talk about anything we want to talk about right here, right now, right here on News to Know. Check it out and keep it coming. All right. Same clip. No. Next clip. No. See you tomorrow.